I decided to start decorating this tape-bound junk journal, and I wanted to do a cute little scalloped edge that pokes out on the first page so you can see it when the junk journal's closed. So I ended up finding a piece of scrap paper that I had jelly printed on, and I do this little trick to get the scallop. Hindsight's 2020, but I could have done it on the hinged edge and just made a hinge, but instead I cut it this way. But it turns out being kind of a cool little piece that I end up using in the end on the page, so I'm not mad at it. But just so you know, if you do it on the hinged edge, you don't have to worry about lining them up when you glue them. So I started by gluing this to my page and decided to do the whole page blue because of this cute little scalloped edge. And using my favorite glue here, it's that 3-in-1 craft glue by Beacon. I'm not sponsored, but Beacon, if you want to sponsor me, I will sing your praises because I absolutely love this glue. It also matches when the cover is closed because I jelly printed the same color on my cover. Now I'm using my crocodile to punch holes, tiny little holes in the scalloped edge here. And to be honest, you could just leave these tiny little holes in the scallops. I think that's a cute look too. But I decided I kind of wanted to sew some beads onto the scalloped edge since it's going to show when the journal's closed. So I do that here in this video, but first I go and make sure my edges are all inked up because I really like that look. And then I found a jelly print piece of paper that's just the right size and just the right color, which is crazy. It almost never happens to me. So I go ahead and put that down and I start to trim off any little pieces that stick over those white edges, and I have a nice little scrap to keep for another project. And you can see it's starting to come together here. And I found some really old embroidery thread when I was at Goodwill. Here's the label. It was super old. I had to cut it open because it just would not pull apart. But I loved the orange and blue. You know, those are complementary colors. So I always try to use those complementary colors when I can. I bought these glass beads, and as you can see, when I opened them, they spilled everywhere. But just so you know, if you buy these little glass beads from Dollar Tree and you open them, they do not stay in their wells very well. So I probably could have done a whip stitch on the edges here, and that would have been cute. I just kind of weaved this through the holes. I may go back and change that. I don't hate the look, but because it's scalloped, it kind of messes with the shape a little bit. So that's something to know, but nevertheless, I really like the orange and the pink with this bright blue. It's just really, really pretty. When I got to this stage, I started to think it looked a lot like those papel picados that you see in Mexican restaurants and Mexican culture. Really, really pretty and bright and beautiful. So I was really enjoying kind of how this was turning out. Also, be encouraged that I am not a professional seamstress. I do not sew well. I have very little to no experience with sewing, so I did not do a great job of sewing this up, but it's really about the process and not necessarily about the product. I did do a big knot here, and I left the tail because I thought I could add maybe some beads to it to dangle. Now here's where I'm talking about that piece that I had left over when I cut out my scalloped edges. It ended up being a really cute thing to hide that seam of where I glued the paper down. So you never know what kind of scraps you're going to use when. I do keep most everything. And I decided to use this pretty little quote by, the quote is not necessarily by Katie Daisy, but the art on this calendar, I have a day-by-day calendar by Katie Daisy. I buy her products all the time, every year. And I decided to reuse this that I had pulled off. And I love her watercolors. If you don't follow Katie Daisy, go follow her because she has incredible stuff. And so I use a little pinking sheer scissor and decide to ink up the edges so that you can see it pop off that blue background, and end up gluing it sideways almost. It's definitely not even, but I did fix it. I did pull it off and fix it in the end. And I love to do a little bit of a silhouette or vignette on the edges here. And I think this is a beautiful little first page to a junk journal that I quite literally put together with junk mail and a Amazon mailer. So use what you have, guys. It's that easy. Let me know what you think.